Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, I would like to welcome to the podcast a very special guest of ours, a reoccurring guest. Alhamdulillah, my dear beloved Shaykh Mohamed Yaffa from Halifax. Welcome to the program, Shaykh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. JazakumAllahu Khairan.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shaykh, Jazakumullahu Khair, I know you're very busy with the time difference. This is a very busy time for you, especially with Maghrib, breaking the fast, Aisha, all the ibadat that we're trying to squeeze in. So I really appreciate you making the time to spend with us. We always benefit from you anytime you're a guest for the podcast, and alhamdulillah. So your episode with us is the most viewed episode right now. So alhamdulillah, we always want to have you on as a recurring guest, inshallah. Now, Shaykh, since we last spoke, your community has suffered a pretty big tragedy. And it's basically the biggest massacre that has faced Canada ever. And this was on just this past weekend, correct, Shaykh?
Yeah. About 2 weekends ago.
Pardon? 2 weekends ago.
Yes, about there.
Okay. So now, apparently, the details of this are, over, almost over a period of a day that this rampage took place. It claimed the life of 22 innocent Canadians. This particular individual was driving around in multiple vehicles. One of them, for sure, was replica police vehicles, RCMP vehicles. It seems like he had some type of RCMP uniform. He was dressed up like an RCMP officer, and he gave the appearance of a police officer at least. And he went. There's I believe 16 sites that they were investigating. So 16 crime scenes that they were investigating. So this took place over not only a big period of time, I think like 13, 14 hours, but also over a big space as well. So you're very familiar with this area. This is in your backyard. Can you give us an assessment of what information you've been given as a community? What happened? Why was there such a long time for alerts to go out and for the police to be able to react, the RCMP to be able to react properly?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. Just like you mentioned, this is a tragedy, and the magnitude of it is one that Canada has never seen, which speaks to the peaceful nature of this country, but especially for this to happen not in Toronto, Montreal, but in Halifax. Not to say that it should happen in those places, but with the number of people that reside in those big cities like Vancouver and so on, you would think if something is happening, you would think it will happen there. The likelihood is more there than in a place like Halifax. But it shows also
because
that
Portapique is a very small community, correct?
Small community. It's a very small community behind another small community, behind another small community, really. Yeah. So it's past the airport, and if you've been to Halifax, past the airport, go the other way instead of coming towards towards the city of Halifax. But his rampage and his mobility came not too far from the airport. The next exit after the airport, which is Elmsdale, he came all around that area. And the big stop that's mentioned is not too far. It's about 1 or 2 exits after that, where he had the encounter with the police, where he fell. So it is pretty scary and surreal. And everybody was surprised, and we thought in the beginning that he was in custody, and they said the victims were not. The number of the victims wasn't mentioned, so we were hoping it was maybe somebody injured. And when we knew that it was this number of people, they said in the beginning, the numbers kept going up, and it took every single person by surprise. Everybody was scared, and
yeah, when they were first started the reports coming out, it was like 10, 11 victims, and then now it ended up with 22 people killed, and not including the gunman. Of course, you include the gunman, that's 23 people, but he killed 22 people,
including an RCMP officer. Right?
Yes, including an RCMP officer.
How this happened, I think I don't know very well how the investigation go. I have no clue. But with this being the first time happening in a place like Nova Scotia, I believe it took the RCMP itself by surprise. It took the whole law enforcement by big surprise. And I believe the fact that everybody is indoors also helped him, because there are no eyewitnesses to say, I saw somebody passing around having a gun, and he was going into houses. He's not meeting people outside and shooting. So people are not running and shouting for, to call attention and create a spectacle. So he would go into.
This was basically the perfect storm for him to be able to cause this much havoc.
That's right.
Having everyone indoors.
That's right.
This is a sleepy neighborhood, a neighborhood that's not used to probably a very high crime rate. People let their guard down. They don't expect someone like this. If it was to happen, maybe it would just be restricted within one household. But then to go around from house to house, this is unexpected. So I think in that sense, yes, there is an excuse probably for this lack of reaction time. But do you feel that systematically or systemically there was an issue with preparedness, that they could have been a little bit more responsive? Because, for example, Shaykh, like, we get Amber Alerts, okay, if a single child is kidnapped, and that is like a forced, message that is received on your phone at any hour of the night, any hour of the day. So in a situation like this, why wasn't something like that utilized? Because the existing infrastructure is there, right? Like, we're finding this out in piecemeal afterwards, obviously, like what ended up happening. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts in regards to that?
Well, I think, you see, the police, I have no idea when the police got the information that people are dying, because if he had gone to houses and killing people and leaving nobody alive to make the call, and driving in a police vehicle, so he really was masked. So when the police knew, I totally agree that when the police knew, they should have alerted people that there was an active shooter going around. And but maybe because this is the one of the earliest times they have ever been forced to use this system, put them into that place where they didn't do what they were supposed to do. Otherwise, the RCMP is a renowned force that they will capture their man. But this one, they captured this one very, very late. And I just hope that they do a thorough investigation, not only of the murder and the crime that happened, but also as to what happened in the response process. So the whole country is able to learn from this and really utilize the knowledge. That will not bring the dead people back, and it will not erase the sorrow of the people who have gone through losing their loved ones. But this should be a huge learning for us. And I see that they are very, very active in many places. Like if I have driven by RCMP offices, with no good reason, I got stopped. In Nova Scotia, we just driving while black. I got stopped one time.
How long ago was this?
Well, the last time I got stopped was in Dartmouth, which was across, and I was just driving, and somebody just called the police saying that somebody was driving slowly in the neighborhood, and I was looking for an address. I don't know how fast they wanted me to go. And and the officers came and got me. And the other time I was driving from Moncton, coming back, we were in a caravan, and they stopped us, me and my family, and we asked them why they didn't give us good. So it happens here a lot. Any black person can tell you they have been stopped on the highway. The last time I got stopped on the highway actually was in February. I was driving from a place called Digby, and then the officer stopped me. So that happens. That happens a lot. I hope they are that vigilant also, right, to crimes that are more serious.
I find that ironic because in if you look at pop culture or what's popularized, everyone tries to act black, until they get stopped by the police. Then you try to act as white as possible, whatever that is.
Oh, definitely.
Right?
I know how.
Yeah, exactly.
On the steering wheel, and you can move your car and you follow every instruction and talk very nicely.
Yeah, and you know what I think, things like this should give us time to pause and reflect on our humanity. I think is a big one, that because obviously a tragedy like this should be able to bring us together. But I think we should look at the deeper, greater lessons in a tragedy like this, because a lot of times people will utilize tragedies to serve their own end, right? And I think we spoke about this previously before, how politicians like to utilize, different type of stressful events or whatever for their own end. So, for example, if you look at this particular individual, it seems from the reports that are at my disposal that he was really enamored with police memorabilia, RCMP memorabilia. He was a collector, so he collected. He went to the auctions where they sell the old police cars. He bought old police cars. He bought the decals for the old police cars. He had old police uniforms. In his graduation picture, I don't know if you've seen that going around. So in his graduation picture, they said about him, can you believe this? In 1986, it says Gabe's future may include being an RCMP officer.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And his picture is beside him. So Gabriel Wortman says, oh, his future looks like it would be an RCMP officer. So here you have somebody who is completely enamored. He's completely obsessed with police culture. Okay. Now, see, what I really don't like, Shaykh, and I think we've discussed this in the past, is I really don't like identity politics, and I really don't like a superficial assessment or analysis of situations. Just you take just superficial things, or you take superficial aspects of anything, and then you weaponize it for your own interests, right? Yeah. So to say that this guy is a mass murderer inherently because he's white, or if because he's inherently a male, or if he's inherently because he's like a police culture is like this, because obviously he's smitten with it. Okay, he's obsessed with police culture. Okay, he's absolutely obsessed. So now what we say, oh, police culture is violent, and then so now you say, okay, the police in and of itself is wrong. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Yes, the police can do wrong things, like for example, being racist with you, driving while black, and I've experienced things growing up. But at the same time, myself, I've turned to the police when we've needed them for something, okay? And I'm sure if something were to happen to you, you would turn to the police, right? Yeah. So how do we move beyond this and to actually get to the heart? Because if we want to make, like, anybody who's part of any identity group can do this, and we're the biggest victim of that, okay? As Muslims, we're the biggest victim. As somebody who is black and Muslim and male, you're a big victim, and a practicing Muslim, a visually apparent Muslim. You're victim to this mischaracterization, okay? Because if we want to pull out stats, if we want to look at this any way we want to manipulate it, we can say, oh, listen, it's because he's white and male. This is why he did this. That is not a reason. You know what I mean? It's just like being Muslim is not a reason. You know what I mean? If you look at the reasoning that set him off, like, that if we can just look at the initial reports, he had a fight with his girlfriend. It had to do with this relationship between a woman. Okay. We have other, if you look at the history of multiple murders in Canada, you can identify that, right? You can look at Alex Minassian, the guy who ran over all those people in Toronto, because like he had this animosity towards women. If you look at the shooting there's a shooting in Edmonton in 2017, December 29th. This man, he had a argument with his ex-wife or his whatever. He killed her and her family. If you look at the previous largest mass shooting in Montreal, okay, in 1989, this guy killed 14 people because he said he was fighting these feminists, okay? So one could say, oh, it's because of this, right? Now this is the reason, okay? All these white men are going crazy because of white women, okay? But again, I feel that you're not getting to the heart of the matter. You're not actually getting, and when we do this, when we're too easy on somebody like him, and maybe we're too hard on on Muslims who do certain things, and when you look at a Muslim, you characterize them in a different way. And when you look at somebody like this, oh, he was an alcoholic, oh, he was in depression, oh, he was just obsessed with this, he had a fight with his girlfriend, it set him off, you know what I mean? But he was such a good person, and then you humanize this person, so you can see the humanity in him and the people around him. There are Muslims who have nothing to do with what maybe a Muslim may have done, but forget about their whole family, the whole community. A person who's never met him now is also guilty. You know what I mean? So Shaykh, how do we move beyond this? Because I think you are at such a good position to speak about this, because again, you've dealt with racism, you've dealt with Islamophobia, you've dealt with all sorts of ignorance, not only on this country, but we've had conversations. You've had to deal with that in other countries.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So how are we going to move beyond this?
Well, that's a very hard question, but it's in the core of everything we need to really think about. Because as you are talking about Muslims, when a Muslim commits a crime, it's like they do it in an Islamically specific way, right? Yes. Like this crime is Islamic, and people go after the Quran, they go after the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They go after all Muslim nations. They go after everybody. They have even gone after Sikhs because they have turbans and they think they are Muslims. So it doesn't stop at just characterization of people as being violent, but also Muslims get returned violence for something that they have not done as persons. So the reaction is always different. And the term, if the person's name is Muhammad, terrorism comes first at the top of the list of the aim of the goals before anything else. Yes. So everybody is giving the benefit. Muslims are given the doubt all the time. We know that for sure. And like they said, people join the armed forces. Some say it's for 3 reasons. One is maybe for family, your father was, so you are going to be, and others go, they're looking for a job. And some are finding some license to kill. And if he was always going to be an RCMP officer, probably this is the kind that was looking for a license to kill. And when he didn't join the RCMP, he found a way anyway to masquerade himself as an RCMP officer and to go around and just shoot innocent people and massacre them over a long period of time, and got away with it. Because that is why we pray, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that there is a hereafter. Because if you kill one person, if you kill 22 people and they kill you as one person, it's not done. You are responsible for 22 lives. And the other 21 lives, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to take them out of you in the hereafter. That's what we believe, right? So it's a hard thing really to swallow. And to go beyond this is hard because, society has been fed language and society has been fed perspective. Right? If you put the word black man and you look into that, there is actually surveys that have been done that wherever black man is put, there is the words that come after it is violent, poor, very excited, things like that. And white man comes with successful, job, rich, and so on. So sometimes you see an RCMP officer actually stopping you. This would be a very good person, but he has been fed all through his life these languages associated with your own person. So it's deeply ingrained within society. The racism and the treatment, the maltreatment of people, it is everywhere, my brother. Every single place you go, where you work, where you buy your groceries, the place where you go to get your your treatment, when people talk to you in your neighborhood, when you walk with people, they meet you on the street, people put their heads down in the neighborhood where you should be saying hello, or other people go overboard to say hello, or people make terminologies when you start standing in the, they say words and sentences when you're standing in the park. I was on the park one day playing, and we were in the shade, and somebody just passed and made lots of comments about shade and heat and all of that. And I said, he said, well, you come from a hotter place, so you should not be thinking about the heat. I say, yeah, it's hot, but we still seek shade there, just like I'm doing here. It's not like when it comes, when it's hot, we go out and jumping and say, oh God, it's hot. So people have fed this. So it's to go beyond, I think it takes a real fundamental re-education of society, and understanding that being a man doesn't mean inherently bad, or being a white person doesn't mean you are inherently bad, and to change the language. I'm really tired and frustrated with these movies that are showing Black people as pathetic, or as if the history of Africa started with slavery, and everybody's looking at you like want to feel sorry for you. There is so, that's why when Black Panther came out, like people are just saying, this is the kind I want to see. Stop showing things that make people feel sorry for me. I don't want that. Because I'm equal. And you know, in the last time when we had these lectures, my talk was 800 years before slavery, right? And so on and so forth. And Islam in Africa, that the Africans came with in this part of the world. So this is a huge question you've asked. How do we move beyond this? It takes re-education. And this word successful, we have to redefine what is successful, because this guy
you know what, Shaykh, I feel, and I want to get your insight on this. I feel human beings, like we like to as a survival mechanism, or it's like you put shortcuts. So for example, your keyboard can have shortcuts. You put a shortcut, or like you can put in text, you'll say OMW, and it's like means on my way. So it's a shortcut. Okay. So I feel that as a certain survival mechanism, or through human history, we have this built within us that we want to just to be able to put things in categories very quickly, so we don't have to think about it too much. So this person, okay, he's inferior to me. Okay, this person, he's superior to me. Oh, this person's a threat. This person is a threat. How do I do that? I don't have the time or energy to assess what he's saying, what they're truly are about. What's like the trueness of their character. I'm just going to look at the superficial assessment. Okay, and I'm going to put them in this box very quickly because I don't have time to do this. Okay, but what is that? That is a thinking that our Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told us is a thinking of Jahiliyyah. Asabiyya, so tribalism, racism is a thinking of Jahiliyyah. Islam is here to intellectually also elevate us. Not only spiritually elevate us, because obviously we're going to be spiritually elevated, become closer and connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it's like, I don't recognize you. You're a completely different complexion from my tribe, what I'm used to. And I associate your tribe with danger. And so when I see you, automatically, I'm going to have this antagonistic relationship with you. And I'm going to treat you in a completely different way. But Islam came to overcome Jahiliyyah. It came to overcome Asabiyya. It came to tell you in the last khutbah of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that no Arab is better than a non-Arab, no white is better than black. Like, you're not better. This is not a way how you assess people. You're better in terms of righteousness. You're better in terms of your actual track record. It's a much more meritocratic assessment of an individual, right? Rather than just allocating somebody, okay, I'm going to trust this person because they're white and they look this way and they have this type of job. We know some of the most heinous crimes were done by people who were very highly educated, looked the part. They looked the part and they may have even talked the part. But some of the most heinous crimes, as for example, this person, he had patience. People gave glowing reviews about him. They loved him. He came to people, did house calls, fixed the person's teeth. He's a denturist. So I truly believe that this Islamic idea of taking people out of Jahiliyyah, because you would be surprised, Shaykh. I have sat down with people who are professionals, and not only professionals, they are known to be at the top of their profession. They're known to be like educators in their profession. They're well respected. Their opinions hold weight. And you sit with them, and I sat with this particular individual, and I said that, are people born evil? Are people born evil? And he was agreeing with that. He's like, yeah, there are people that are born evil. Like, it's like a baby. I said, a baby would be evil. Are you saying a baby is born evil? And I said, my concept is no, because we believe in fitrah. Everybody is born on fitrah. Everybody is born innocent. Everybody is born on the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then, as you said, Shaykh, society changes your perspective. If you take a white, if you take a white 4 or 5 year old kid and a black 4 or 5 year old kid, you think they're going to start fighting with each other because they're a different race?
Of course not.
Right? Are they going to start fighting with each other and say, because you are, I can tell within my own instinct, because you look this way, that you are my enemy? They don't treat each other like that, right? It's the perspective that gets built in. Whatever happened with this particular individual, he made a decision, and for us now, as almost like, we don't want to think about it too much, right? Because then maybe we have to question our own habits and character. Maybe we have to question society, Shaykh. Maybe we have to actually question society. Like, these are the values that society has, and this is maybe what allowed this person to make these types of decisions, right? But now, just to make a superficial assessment, this person did it because he's an Islamic terrorist. This person did this because, they're a white male. You understand what I'm saying, Shaykh? So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, he made so many points there. Starting with society, I think we have to really come to terms with our characterization of what success is.
Yes.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة هم يوقنون أولئك على هدى من ربهم أولئك هم المفلحون. He described who's successful, right? Somebody who has a belief in the unseen and connects with his or her creator, and spends and cares for people, and believes in the Prophet. Said, these are the successful, and not only success in the hereafter, success in the dunya, because their heart get contentment. Mm-hmm. And people are pursuing happiness, which is just an illusion, instead of pursuing contentment. No matter how much, because you don't know where happiness lies. Is it in money? Is it in fame? Is it in career? What is it in, right? This man had everything, had land, had properties, had career, had clients, had reviews, like you said, had so many things. So they characterized him just by possessing, said successful. So possession has become success, which is the wrong characterization of what success is. If you're bankrupt spiritually, you're really not anywhere near success. And this is a proof for us that people should really return to their creator, to their soul. And for you to develop your soul, you have to go to the one who understands your soul. Just like for you to maintain your car, which is very simple to make, because everybody makes car today. Japan does, Korea does, Canada does, everybody does, America does. So it becomes simple thing around the world. But you still consult your manual, which is not a complicated thing. But the soul, which we don't understand, every proud person is saying, I don't need a God to tell me what to do with my soul, when you don't understand your soul. But for your car, you have to ask, where do I put water? Where do I put oil? So we have to really redefine what success is, because we are misnaming what success is. That is one point. The other point is this stereotypical view of people, simplistic way of describing people just by seeing their color, their skin color, their accent, and characterizing them as being in a box, right? Once we have that, which society teaches us, and like you said, nobody is born like that, and people use that when they're in a hurry, because I don't have the time. See, the mind is like a map, right? Like you haven't been to Japan. You didn't tell me that you've been to Japan, right? And I have not been to Japan. But you have your Japan in your mind. because the mind cannot allow those gaps. I have my Japan in my mind. The day I will land in Japan, I will see something different, but I cannot go without having some Japan in my mind. So when we don't know much about people, we draw that map, which is ignorant, which Rasulullah talked about. That is in our mind. And when we are in a hurry, or we are angry, or we are anxious, we use that stereotypical view to treat them, right? The moment you see somebody in your neighborhood that you don't know much about, you think, oh, something is wrong. Then your mind goes straight to the things that you've been hearing, and then you stereotype them and get the police or get your gun or do something about it, right? That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, said, فَتَبَيَّنُوا, verify. That is the base of everything, verify. Before you take the first step, verify. فَتُصْبِحُوا, أَن تُصِيبُوا قَوْمًا بِجَهَالَةٍ فَتُصْبِحُوا عَلَى مَا فَعَلْتُمْ نَادِمِينَ. So you don't affect people ignorantly, and then you become regretful, right? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not a racist. I'm sorry I did that, right? Without verifying. So it's very important I think you made very important points there, that we should take our time and go. If everybody, Muslim or non-Muslim, really see, like you mentioned the last sermon of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet Muhammad, just go read those words. Every leader, every great person who has read those words sincerely has said something great about those words. Just treat them as a human being. You don't have to be a Muslim, right? How to treat each other, how to treat women, how to look at one another, right? What to care for. So we are in this situation where we really need to return to our to spirit. But again, when I say return to spirit, you can't devise your own way about your spirit. Everybody is saying, I'm spiritual, I'm spiritual. Yes, we are all. But you can't devise your own way, because you cannot devise your own car. You cannot put water where oil needs to go just because it is your car. Because if you do that, your car won't run. But because it's your soul, which you don't understand, you know less about your soul than you know about your car, but you think you can do with your soul what you want. If we want to know how our soul should be guided, we should go to the divine guidance. That is the only source, because nobody can tell you what the soul is except the one who created it.
Yes. Like, some people, you were mentioning that you may know some people within the community that were directly affected by this?
Yes, I am. I'm a member of an organization here. It's called the Atlantic Christian Learning Center, Start-Language Center. I do a lot of training with them, and I've trained in some things there as well. And one of the old board members, his stepdaughter was one of the victims of this tragedy, and so many other victims, and broadly also some other people that I'm working with, doing education with. They have their extended family members were victims of this tragedy, which is it's really sad, because and I'm happy the way the news handled it this time, because they are showing the victims instead of the perpetrator. Usually they show that person, talk about him so much that people forget that there are victims here. But there was some kind of balance that was put there this time. And I'm going to tell you something that happened. I don't know if I'm going out of line here. A couple of days ago, there was the rumor of an active shooter going around, and we got the alarms on our phones. Some roads were blocked. So it turned out to be a false alarm.
Yes.
So like we were saying in the beginning, probably the police has learned that, when there is some news about this, they should alert people, so people take their own precautions, right?
So they're more hypersensitive now.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, right? From one extreme to the other. Yeah, but yes, it was tragic, and it was close to some of my friends as well in that area. I have a friend in a place called Cook, which is not too far from where this happened, and they were all vigilant. They were all afraid until this man was killed. Everybody was wondering how far was the killing going to go. Yeah.
How do they feel now? How are people feeling now?
I think people are really trying to settle down with this, and they're trying to analyze it. Could people have seen signs of disturbance that this person was going through? But with the individualism that we exist in, everybody is in their big houses alone and going to their jobs looking like everything is in place. Who would know, right? People live alone, and that's in itself is a risk factor. It's a risk factor, right? Everybody is living alone. Who knows what's going on in your life? And you show up in the morning and you have to smile, but who knows what's behind those smiles, right? And looking professional. What is that? What is that, in fact? Instead of just being human, we think it's so much about professional, following rules that are not divine and that don't sometimes are meaningless. Really, meaningless. Being professional sometimes is just a meaningless concept for nothing. It doesn't take you here or there, and we're forgetting the human behind that professionalism. So,
do you feel society almost forces people to live a double life? Like in front of people, you can't show how you really feel, or you have to walk on eggshells, so to speak, and then behind the scenes, you could be feeling, behaving, and thinking some things that are completely different. You know what I mean? So like, especially now we live in a very politically correct or call out type of culture where you have to appear a certain way and you can't even challenge people's stereotypes because it's so well hidden. You know what I mean? It might just come out in instances in their personal life, or it's bubbling underneath and it just explodes all of a sudden, right? So, if this, maybe, I don't know, if internally, mentally, there was some type of struggle with this particular individual. Hindsight is 2020. You can like scrutinize everything, but as you said, like, are we so insulated from one another, and we just put on this face that a lot of people are living this double life? Because how many times now, Shaykh, do we see this? I never expected this from this person. I never saw this coming. I never sensed this at all. But then it's like, Shaykh, like, how do people greet each other? How are you doing? Oh, I'm doing good. That's a default on. Imagine if somebody said to you, I'm not doing very well. Ooh, okay, hold on for a second here. Like, too much information. I didn't really care how you're doing, Like, what do you think that's a factor, Shaykh?
A big time, Akhi. I think we all know. I read a book long time ago. It's called The Masks We Wear. So really, everybody wears a mask to go to work, wears another mask to come home. Society tells us that we don't care about what's going on in your life. We care about what will make you productive at work. So you have to come with that mask here. If you have your problems, go to the doctor. Don't come to me. Everything is a professional does everything. Family doesn't, friend doesn't, colleagues don't. Nobody wants to listen to that. You have a problem, please don't waste my time. We're here to produce. Go see the doctor, go see somebody else. That's a huge factor in everything that's going on today. And the neglecting of family, right? So people can just live individual lives. There's no family, because if you have family, somebody will have to say, okay, something is wrong here. 2, 3, 4, especially if the family is large, right? Somebody would suspect something. But if you're living alone with so much, and especially if you have amassed everything that you need, my brother, like you have the cars, you have the land, you have the job, you have everything, then you go, now what? Now what, really? So this emptiness just resides in. If you don't have a scripture to read, you don't have a God to talk to you, you're talking to yourself, you have all of these things, nobody's congratulating you, nobody's giving you kudos, nobody's telling you anything, everybody's living their lives. The person that shows you the most care, as soon as they leave you, they have a little headache, you don't exist any longer, right?
Yes.
So people feel this isolation. It's the individualistic system which feeds into capitalism is here, and I'm very, very sad to say this is just one thing. This is not the end of it. This is not the end of it. I pray that it never happens again. I pray that I'm proven wrong. I sincerely pray to Allah that it never happens again, but that will be the surprise.
Yeah, I think it is very important, and our Deen emphasizes this: the access to trust somebody and be vulnerable to somebody else.
Yeah.
Obviously we need to connect firstly with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be like open our heart to Allah, make dua to Allah, whatever we are dealing with internally in turmoil. But also, Shaykh, Ar-Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us ad-din nasiha. And one of the rights that a Muslim has on one another is that if I want advice from you, Shaykh, I need advice from you, it is my right upon you that you give me advice. Like, I want you to think about it. It is so important. It is so important, Shaykh. It must be such deep meaning and reasoning behind it. Because without me being able to connect with somebody and be able to say, hey, am I going crazy? Like, am I right on this one? Am I feeling okay? Like, I need somebody to, because when you're by yourself, Shaitan can just pump you full of all these types of thoughts and ideas and completely make your logic completely skewed. Murder can seem like no big deal. Murder can be like a nothing, and jealousy can be like a huge thing. As in the case with Yusuf alayhi salam, right? So that ability to be, and we can, whether it's society at large or our own community, I find that it is so difficult for us to go to one another and seek sincere advice, open our hearts up, seek advice, and people put in the time and effort and care to give you that advice.
Right. Yeah. It's a big area. If you want advice, they say go to the specialist, and many people don't trust that their problems can be solved by some specialist. Definitely, mental health issues can be dealt with. Majority of mental health issues can be dealt with through professionals. But the less, if you have family around you, have friends around you, have people who volunteer to tell you, listen, let's talk to me about this, right? Like you said, in Islam, it's your right to receive advice for somebody, if somebody can, once you ask for it, right? But when it's left to professionals, the professionals, it's 1 hour service.
Yeah.
Everything is 1 hour.
It's a contractual relationship.
It's money.
It's not a social or a khuwa type of relationship. Right?
No. Definitely, and there is no way the person is going to call you up in your home and say, "How are you doing today?" Right? Yeah. You come to me when you're ready to see me again, and let me know who's paying for the service if it's not you directly, right? Yeah. And so there are so many barriers because, again, people are separated because everybody needs to work on their own, so we can all pay taxes, so the capitalist system can keep going. So that is a big problem in people's lives. People are not finding advice, and there is no trust. The only person that is trusted is the one who is providing professional services, because they have the vow of confidentiality. Depending on their profession. When in Islam, we are told not to divulge anybody's secret, not to divulge your own secret, your own sins that you do, that you should not be saying it outside. La yuhibbullahu al-jahra bis-su'. Allah does not like publicizing anything that is evil, whether it's from you or from somebody else. Because what happens, you make somebody else feel comfortable that, oh, I was doing that. Yes. I thought I was alone, but I'm not alone. So what happens? Evil spreads, you see. Yes. So, and I'm advising the ones that have brothers and sisters and families not to, usually human beings generally, Muslim or not, are willing, if they know that you respect their opinion, they're willing to give opinions, right? But it's not about opinion. But if you tell somebody, listen, I'm suffering, they will say, talk to me, I'm ready to listen. Many people can provide that ear, right? And we should provide that to our brothers and sisters and relatives and anyone who wants to, who needs it, because it's important. Because the safety of one human being has a ripple effect of bringing safety to everybody. Right? One person being hurt, it hurts everyone, and it could have been me, it could have been you, who thought this was going to happen in Nova Scotia. Right? The last, the worst. Murder of people in Canada, in that kind of period. So we should be there for one another. And sometimes we think people are not ready to listen to us or to say hello to us, but society is telling us that individuals, really, we are all good by nature. Nobody's born evil, and I've tried it many times. I've even said to people hello twice. because the first time you think maybe they didn't hear it because they never expected it. But when they hear it properly, they go, yeah, and they raise their head and they smile and they raise their hands. And it looks like, it feels like an old friend, right?
Yes.
You know, you go into the elevator, the etiquette is to look at the numbers. Yeah. So you don't look into anybody's eyes, so you don't threaten people.
Yeah.
I go into the elevator, I say hello, and sometimes people answer. Most times,
I think there's sometimes people are afraid they might get lost in your eyes, Shaykh.
Well, no, I know why people are afraid. It's like, is there a technician in this elevator is going to lock it? You know, the black guy is here with me. What am I going to do if he attacks me? Right? You know, it's bizarre. It's bizarre with each other, right? And that has to break. That has to break.
And you know, I truly believe that, Shaykh. Like, people sometimes they look at some of these seemingly very simple approaches, which we basically, you know, we've become disconnected from, and they think, oh, that's too simplistic, and they make everything more complicated than it is. But I've seen it with my own eyes. Like, I've experienced it. Like, I spoke with a brother, for example, who was like almost going to become like arch enemies with another brother. He was going to become arch enemies. He's like, I've been so nice to him, this, and he didn't say salam to me. He's like, that's it. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to cut off. Like, he was so emotional, like as if this brother was in front of him, he would have, like, you know, knocked him out, you know? I said, no, man, give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure you're building it up in mind. People's minds can be in different places. You don't know where he was at. I found out later that this brother didn't have his contacts in, so he wasn't seeing very well. So it looked like he was ignoring this other brother, or he's being very rude to him. But actually, he didn't have his contacts in. He didn't see anything. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So, but people overlook giving people benefit of the doubt, looking at something from somebody else's perspective, not getting too upset, not falling too much in love with someone, not getting too upset with someone. See these simple things, connecting, adini and nasiha. These simple things, it could like literally save like not this situation I'm saying. Like, this is Allahu Alam, what could happen. If this guy had a bigger brother who was very close to him and saw him and grabbed him and maybe gave him a pounding, said, get this stupid, maybe that could have stopped it. Who knows? Allahu Alam. But sometimes simple things can make a big effect. You know, sometimes giving a smile, as you said, Shaykh, and saying hello to that somebody, maybe that person was like having suicidal thoughts, and within an instant they completely forgot about why they were on that path. You know what I mean? Will it do everything? No. Like, will it solve everything? But will it help society as a whole be better and more resilient? Yes.
Definitely. And you know, the greeting is so powerful. The greeting is so powerful. When I moved to my new neighborhood, which you have seen, my neighbor came with brought some things from his garden and give to me, right? And he's living alone. It really impressed me. More than once he did, right? Of course, we also tried to return the favor. And I remember inviting them during Eid, and I found a lady there. I don't know if that lady was his wife, whatever the relationship was, right? Maybe daughter or something, because it's an older gentleman. And this lady turned out to having come from Israel and knows everything about Eid. And we started a long conversation, the longest conversation I ever had in my neighborhood. You know, like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Afala adullukum ala shay'in in fa'altumuhu tahabbtum afshu salam bainakum." Shouldn't I give you something? If you do it, you will love each other. Spread this greeting of peace amongst you. We know how effective that is in Muslim community, and everybody knows also when you say hello to people, how much love you are triggering in them, right? Even if they sit with it, but they will know this person is a good neighbor, right? This person is a good neighbor. So we should really come out of this isolation that society is putting us in, because we are all isolated. Every single person needs the other person, but nobody wants to say it first. See? Yeah, we should really get out of that and just say hello to our neighbors. You say it once, they don't answer you. Say it 2 times, 3 times. In the end, they will know you are not on drugs. You're really trying just to connect.
Yes.
Right? So we should try it, especially as Muslims. I think we should, because like the Prophet ﷺ said, the Muslim brother has 2 rights on you, your non-Muslim fellow human being has more than 2 rights on you, has 3 rights on you, right? The neighborhood right is there as well. So we should really not close ourselves in, and we should at least just give the word of hello. It costs nothing. It costs nothing. And one thing we can promise ourselves is nobody will slap you for saying hello to them, or nobody will call the police on you. Right? Yeah, it's important.
Well, just don't drive slow in their neighborhoods, right?
No. Well, I do in my neighborhood, but not in other neighborhoods any longer, right? I don't know what to do though if I'm looking for an address. Like if you speed, how are you going to do it?
And if you stop to ask for directions, that might be even more dangerous. Sheikh, you can't win. You can't win. Sheikh, I want to leave off on a good note. I heard some very amazing news that there is something that is happening, even though you are not able to go to the masajid. There's something happening at Maghrib every day in Halifax, correct? What's the special thing that's happening at Maghrib besides you opening your fast? Because that's very, very special.
Yes,
but, so what's special happening in Halifax?
Yes, amazing. Just a couple of days ago, we reached out to the city because we learned that in other cities around the world, they are allowing Muslims to make adhan publicly. So we reached out to the city, and the city wrote back saying we could go ahead and make adhan at Maghrib time. So the adhan was from many masajid in the air of Halifax these past days, and it has been. And it was amazing. It was subhanallah. I never thought this would happen. But yes, it did happen, and it was really pleasing to the heart. And we're hoping that because I don't have a description for it, but it was really something good. So we're making adhan now at Maghrib time during this Ramadan. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So the loudspeaker goes out and we make a beautiful adhan. And everybody's hearing it, and neighbors are curious.
Yes.
And yes, alhamdulillah, that's the good news.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, Shaykh. Like for this is a mercy, I believe, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like a gift for your community after going through such tragedy, already being in lockdown, having to be disconnected during the month of Ramadan, because that's the way people heal too, right? When a community goes through tragedy, that they heal by being in the presence of one another. So something like this definitely can help boost and uplift the spirits, not only for the Muslim community, but for the community at large, because maybe that'll cause them to connect with Muslims, and then they can get some of these deeper lessons and the meaning of Ramadan and some of the benefits that we experience. They can also be a witness to that, inshallah, or experience that as well.
Yeah. So, and one thing I want to add there also, one of our imams was called along with the leaders in the churches and the premier, and there was an interfaith prayer that they did together virtually, which is a good thing, because in Halifax here, the community is very well connected with other communities. When the other tragedy happened here last year, I think it is now, when the 7 Syrian children died, you couldn't tell who was a Muslim, who wasn't, who belonged to the family, who didn't. Everybody came together. Volunteers, companies provided buses to take people to the burial ground. Some company provided space. So it was just, we've had many occasions where we've come together with the communities. When the Syrian crisis happened, I remember our center came together with other Muslims and churches and raised over $200,000 to bring families from Syria. So this has been also another opportunity. It will not be everything for the families of the victims, but it has become another opportunity also for people to look closer into one another's eyes and say, we are all human beings. We are all in this together. And it could have been you, it could have been me. Yeah, alhamdulillah.
I really appreciate that about you, Shaykh, because you've experienced a lot of hate, you've experienced a lot of ignorance, and you have grown beyond that. You have risen beyond that and above that, And that, I think, is a lesson and something that we can all learn from, is that somebody who has been on the receiving end of abuse, of prejudice, shows the true strength of character. And that obviously is powered by, alhamdulillah, Iman that's given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This powerful Iman that you have that's been able to show in the face of this ignorance. You could be somebody who's just completely bitter, a chip on your shoulder after experiencing this from police, from airlines, from so many different types of people just sitting there in Tim Hortons. These are all real stories, by the way, for our listeners. Okay. These are all real stories. Like, whether you're sitting at Tim Hortons, whether you're flying in a plane, whether you're driving, you're getting all this hate that's your way, this ignorance, and it takes strength of character. It takes the quality and the commitment to your deen to be able to rise above that. And so I really appreciate that about you, Shaykh. And that's why I really love spending time with you and having conversations like this. And I hope people, inshallah ta'ala, can benefit from that and see that we have examples amongst us. We don't just have examples from our glorious history, but we have examples amongst us of how we can, in our own way, rise above and be better.
Akhi, you've lifted me too much. JazakumAllahu Khairan. Make dua for me, inshallah. Make dua for me. Yeah, I admire you and all your brothers and your family. I can't say enough about you to my own family and to people whom I know. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of us and our circles and all the brothers that work with you. I know very well what you're doing. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us, bless you, give you much khair, much goodness in this dunya, and accept all our worship. Barakallahu fika akhi.
Jazakumullahu Khairan, Shaykh. And we once again thank Jazakumullahu Khairan, our Shaykh, for coming on to the podcast. Reminder to everyone, our next podcast will be this Saturday. We have a special guest planned. One of my old school shayukh, inshallah, will be there. A PhD in Usul al-Fiqh, inshallah ta'ala, this Saturday's podcast. So stay tuned for that. Until then, we live by the Haqq. We die by the Haqq. Just when you think life is stuck, tune in to Life Haqq. Jazakumullahu Khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Do I feel that the New York police are providing enough protection, or do I have to have protection of my own? I look for protection from Allah.